Hi Angel Besties, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Rachel. How are we? I am really excited for today's video. Excited and intimidated because I have never done this before. As you can see by the title, in today's video I'm going to be going through my entire physical TBR. Essentially what that means is I'm going to be going through every single book that I own that I have not read, and I'm just going to talk about them. And I have to say, when I was prepping for this video, like before I actually started pulling books off my shelf, I was like, no, I don't even have that many physical books on my TBR. Like, it's not that much. It's not that bad. It's bad. Okay, I have pulled them all from my shelves now. They are all right here next to me. It is insane how many books I have that I have not read yet. So we're gonna be going through them. We're gonna be counting them, and I'm probably just gonna talk about like when I think I'm gonna read them, what is motivating me to read them, what I'm excited about with these books, and kind of just go through them. I would also love, as you are watching this video, if there's a book that you're like, ooh, you should really prioritize that. You should definitely read that as soon as you can. Let me know, because I definitely need to like put some of these books a little bit higher on like a priority TBR. Let's just go through every single book that I own that I have not read yet and talk about them. There's going to be absolutely zero organization. I'm not doing this by genre or anything like that. This is going to be completely random. Just whatever is closest to me, I'm going to pick up. All right, so these two books I am going to do together because they're part of a series. So we have The Front Runner and then A False Start by Elsie Silver. So these are the last two books in the Gold Rush Ranch series. Cowboy romance, really, really fun. I really liked the first two books in the series. I think I gave the first one a 3.5 stars and then the second book a 4 star. So I liked them. I don't like the series as much as I love her Chestnut Springs series, but I definitely want to continue on with the series because I love Elsie's writing style. So definitely whenever I am in a romance mood, which I am really not in a contemporary romance mood right now, but whenever I am, I think that these will definitely be probably one of the first books I pick up because Elsie is one of my favorite authors. Next is going to be Always Only You by Chloe Leese. This is the second book in the Bergman Brothers series. I have the first book somewhere here. We'll see you later, but I believe this is a hockey romance, I'm going to guess, from the front. And I am excited to read this series just because I've heard really good things from a lot of my friends. Really, really love the Bergman Brothers series. I've read one Chloe Leese book and it was The Mistletoe Motive and it was Chef's Kiss. Amazing, best Christmas romance I've ever read. So I'm excited for this. Next is going to be Bella Swan's favorite book, Wuthering Heights. I have so many classics, by the way, that are gonna be in this video. That is definitely a theme. I really like classics. When a classic hits, it really hits, and Wuthering Heights I feel like is one of those books that, I mean, I've heard some mixed things, but I do really like I believe kind of like gothic elements of this book really attract me to it, and I want to pick this up. And I've heard that, I mean, I don't know if it qualifies quite as like an enemies to lovers romance, but I think that there is definitely an interesting romantic dynamic in this book. So I gotta read this someday soon. Next is going to be Hate by Tate James. This is the first book in the Madison Kate series. This is a reverse harem romance series. And I do believe that there is like a bit of a mystery aspect to this book. And that is kind of why I picked it up. I really do like a romance that has a mystery aspect. I think that that makes the romance extra special, extra fun. And I've heard like interesting things about this series, but I have heard it's like a fun time, and definitely the later books are even better. But I've been curious about this book. I think this will be a fun kind of like popcorn read for me one day whenever I am in the mood. Next up is The Curse of Saints by Kate Dramas. So this is an enemies to lovers fantasy romance. I mean, that's all I need to know. This is definitely a book that I want to pick up soon. I actually just bought this. I thought it was really, really stunning, and the plot seemed interesting. I've heard some good things, so I'm excited about it. Next up is Blood and Steel. So this book was marketed to me as, if Akasif is your favorite book in the ACOTAR series, you need to read this. Say no more. Like, that was specifically for me. I feel like I just latched onto that so hard and immediately just picked up the book. So I'll be really curious to see how that comparison holds up. Next is a book that I have had for literally ever, and that is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This is a very, very well-known, I believe, historical fiction novel. I gotta read this. I gotta read this one day. This is like a lifetime TBR. I need to read this. I'm just very rarely ever in the mood for historicals. Unfortunately, I haven't read this, but obviously I've heard amazing things. Another book that falls right into that same category is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I feel like this is probably Kristen Hanna's most famous book, and I have a lot of friends and family who absolutely love her books. And The Nightingale, I think, is definitely the most intriguing to me. I know it follows sisters in, I believe, World War II Nazi-occupied France. Then we have two sisters whose lives kind of go in very different directions. It's supposed to be really sad. I know that there is a movie adaptation eventually being made for this, and I think that that will motivate motivate me once that comes out to read this first, because I do really like to read a book before I watch the adaptation. I'll get to this eventually. Next, we have Permanent Record and Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. I picked these up immediately after I read Yoke by Mary H.K. Choi. That is one of my favorite books of all time. I have only read one book by Mary H.K. Choi, but I was so just engrossed in the story and her writing that I truly think that she is just an auto-buy author for me, so I really do want to read these. These are, once again, I think just contemporary fiction novels, I think kind of similar into the way that Yoke is. I do definitely want to read these because I think Mary H.K. Choi is super talented, and I really like the covers. I just haven't picked them up yet. Next up is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. I also recently picked this up. This is an adult fantasy. I definitely think because of the recency bias, I'll probably be reading this pretty soon. This feels like a fall book to me, so I can hopefully get to this year. Next up is One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. This is a witchy book, and I think it follows kind of like warring witch families in 1920s New York City. I think that sounds so cool. I have loved the two Olivia Blake books that I have read. I've given them 4 and 5 stars, so I really do like her writing style. This feels like a fall book to me, so hopefully I'm gonna read this in fall. Next up is Fallen Stars by Imani Iru. So this is the second book in the Heavenly Bodies series. I just finished Heavenly Bodies last night, and oh my God, I don't know when that vlog is coming out, if it's coming out before this video or after, but I loved it. And you all need to read Heavenly Bodies. This is the second book. I cannot wait to pick this up. I will probably be reading this next month because I need to know what is going to happen. But this is a really, really strong fantasy romance series. I have a feeling book 2 is gonna be amazing because book 1 ended in a wonderful way. So definitely a new fave fantasy romance for me, and hopefully this book is just as good as the first. Next up, we have my adorable editions of The Way of Kings and Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I love these little chunky mass market paperbacks. I don't know what it is. Oh my God, I love them. But obviously I need to continue on with my Brandy Sandy journey. I am going to be reading The Hero of Ages, which is the final book in the Mistborn trilogy, soon. I kind of just want to rip off the band-aid and read it. I'm just nervous because I read the first book, Final Empire, loved it, 5 stars. I read The Will of Ascension. It was okay, 3 stars, maybe 3.5 star on a good day. So I'm kind of nervous to read that final one, but I do want to complete the Mistborn trilogy before I get into the Stormlight Archives, but I'm very excited to dive into the Stormlight Archives. I have heard that this is his best work, so The Way of Kings, maybe I'll start this year. There is absolutely no way I am getting to this book because this is the 3rd book in the series. I am missing, I think Words of Radiance is book 2, so I need to get that as well, but this will be coming soon. This absolutely not going to be picked up anytime soon. I will see you in 2024 though. All right, some more classiques. We have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is another classic that I really, really do want to read. I know some people who say that this is their favorite book of all time, and anytime I hear that, I don't care what the genre is, I don't care if we even have similar reading taste. When I hear someone say, oh, this is my favorite book of all time, I'm like, cool, add to cart, I'm buying it. Also, there is going to be a Frankenstein adaptation, and Andrew Garfield is going to be playing Frankenstein's monster, and I'm so there. I'm so there. So once again, a movie adaptation that might motivate me to read this a little bit sooner. It's not even that long. Oh God, it's less than 300 pages. Okay, I could probably read this October. I should anyway, so definitely a priority for me. So next up is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I know little to nothing about this book, but I mean, it's Jane Eyre. I think that there is kind of a, maybe not gothic, but a little doom and gloom element to this book, and that did attract me to it. That's one of the reasons that I picked this up, and yeah, I hope it gives the sad girl vibe and beautiful writing because I think I could really enjoy this. Next up is a book that haunts me, and that is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I say this haunts me because I don't know what it is about this book. It's so random, but I think about this book all the time. I think about picking this book up all the time. I'm like, should I start the audiobook for Anna Karenina? When I very first made my channel in January of 2022, I did like 22 books I want to read in 2022, and I put Anna Karenina on it. Spoiler alert, didn't read it. I also put this on my 23 books to read in 2023. And the year is not over, but like, I don't know if I'm gonna get to it. I don't know. I really, really want to read this. I've just always like had a thing for this book. I don't really know, but I've owned this book for a really long time and I need to read it. I've had some friends read it who absolutely love it. I think it could be really great. I don't know. Let me know what you think of Anna Karenina if you've read it. Do you think it's like definitely worth moving to the top of my priority TBR? It is just a book that I have always like almost picked up and almost started reading, but I think just because of the size, it's just very, very daunting and I don't know what I'm gonna think. I need to read this. I need to finally make it happen. Next up is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This was a recent purchase and I am going to be reading this next week. I'm super excited to dive into Pierce Brown's work. I really hope that I love this series. I have just seen so much buzz lately about his newest release and I wanna be in on the cool kids club and love Pierce Brown because I really do think that I will like his books. I think that this is, from what I've heard, Hunger Games in space kind of, that's the vibe, but I think that that sounds really great, really intriguing, and I hope I like his writing style. All right, next up is going to be The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is a priority read. This is a book that I have to read before the year is over. 100%, I am reading this. I am saying this now. You know, hopefully I'm not putting the clown paint on my face at this point, but I will read this. I was supposed to read it last fall, didn't happen, but I really do want to read this in the fall, winter time, but before the year is up, maybe like November or December. I don't know why, but it just gives me that vibe. Night Circus is one of my favorite books of all time, which is another book by this author, and I've just heard that this book is fantastic. So this is getting read ASAP. Well, once summer is over. Once we get into fall, I will pick this up and read this. I need to know what all the buzz is about. Next up is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. So I have not read anything by John Gwynne, but I do have a couple. I have another book by him somewhere. But this book I thought was really intriguing because there's a dragon on the cover. That's kind of why I bought it. But also I just love this tagline of, we're following 3 warriors, a huntress on a perilous quest, a noble woman pursuing battle fame, and a thrall seeking retribution among the mercenaries known as the Bloodsworn. I think this sounds really cool. I love a multi-POV fantasy, and I really do hope that I like John Gwynne. He's obviously a very well-loved author in the fantasy world. Hopefully this is a good one. Next up, I have Empire the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I've owned this book for such a long time. It's so beautiful. And the second book, Empire the Damned, is coming out, I want to say fall of 2024. I could be wrong, but I know it's coming out in 2024. So I do need to read this before that comes out. I believe the cover reveal was like semi-recently, and it's so beautiful. I mean, this is really gorgeous too. So I do really, really want to get into this. I've seen so many people talk about how amazing this book is. I've seen a lot of people say it's one of their favorite books of all time. And it's also blurbed by V.E. Schwab, which is awesome. So yeah, I need to get to this very soon. Okay, so next up, we have an entire series, a 4-book series here. So we have the Diviners series by Libba Bray. So I have this edition of the Diviners, I have Lair of Dreams, and then I have The King of Crows and Before the Devil Breaks You. So I can't hold all of them, but I need to read all 4 of these books. I've heard that we have a very fun like cast of characters, lots of found family and banter, and I believe that it's kind of like, it's fantasy, but it's a little bit spooky, and I've heard that it's like a good like Halloween time read. So maybe I should read this in October. Maybe I should put this on my October TBR. I don't think I'll be able to read all 4 of them this fall, but I would definitely like to get to the first one and just see what I think of it to see if it's worth continuing on with the series. I feel like I've already done so many books and there are so many more. I cannot stress how many more we have. Okay, next up we have Disorientation by an Elaine C.A. Chow. This is a satire of a girl's experience in college, which I think sounds really fun. And this was another cover by, this is one of my favorite book covers I've ever seen. I think the design is absolutely beautiful, and I think this would be a really good audiobook read for me. So I should definitely pick this up soon. And I do like a satire. I've read one other satire and it was really fun. So hopefully I would like this as well. Then we have This Woven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi. I have heard really, really fantastic things about this book. It's the first book in a YA fantasy trilogy. It is set in the Persian Empire, but is supposed to have a Game of Thrones-esque plotline, which sounds really cool. And there is a little bit of an enemies to lovers romance. So sounds right up my alley. All right. So an author who we're going to be seeing a lot in this going through my entire physical TBR is Cassandra Clare, because I had the brilliant idea a few years ago to buy every single Cassandra Clare book, even though I hadn't started them yet. But I am a little bit farther into the series now. I have read the first 3 Mortal Instruments books. I read The Infernal Devices. I died. And next up, it is now time for me to read the last 3 Mortal Instruments books. It's so funny how delusional I am. I put the entire Shadowhunter Chronicles books, all of them, on my like series I want to read in 2023 or 23 books to read in 2023. One of those videos, one of those end of the year videos where I thought that I was going to be able to read all of these books. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm not gonna be able to read all of them by the end of the year, but I would like to continue on and make more headway. I do, after reading the Infernal Devices trilogy, really like her writing. And I think that definitely as I continue on with the series, there's a lot more to be uncovered and a lot more to love. And I did like the first 3 Mortal Instruments books. They weren't fantastic. Okay, there's a few things about that series that I'm not crazy about, but I still had fun with it. Like from the lens of, well, this was written in 2011 and you know, it's a little silly sometimes, but I do think that it has some fun aspects. So I'll get to these soon. These are next up. Definitely the other books that I'm going to talk about whenever I get to them, wherever they are. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to read before the end of the year, but I do want to continue on, and it is my goal to read all of Cassandra Clare's books. Yeah, so we'll try to work on that this fall. Next up, we have Emma by Jane Austen. This is probably the next classic that I would pick up. I read Pride and Prejudice a few months ago and really, really loved it. And Emma and Pride and Prejudice, I feel like her most popular book. So I definitely want to get to this very, very soon. I think this is her most like comical book as well. So I think that'll be really fun. And then we have Persuasion by Jane Austen. I think this is the shortest book by her that I have. And another one that I need to get to. I don't really know too much about it, but I have all of Jane Austen's books. It is definitely like a lifetime goal for me, once again, to read all of her books. Next up, we have Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I am obsessed with this cover. This is a book that I really contemplated getting for a long time, but it was recently gifted to me by my friend Hannah, and I really want to read this. I have the audiobook. I got it during, I think Audible had a sale like a month or two ago, and I picked up the audiobook for really cheap for this book, and I really, really want to know what I'm going to think because I've seen such mixed opinions about it, but I want to love this so bad just because it sounds like it would be a good book to me. There's dragons, so hopefully I really like this. This is another one that I'm like really curious if this should be a priority TBR, like I should read this in the next few months. Let me know what you guys think of this one. Next up, we have Bound and Barbed by Samantha R. Good. This is an enemies to lovers fantasy romance. I believe we have Fated Mates. It's definitely a book that I am planning to pick up either this month or next month. I did put it on my August TBR, but we know how that goes. So this is a book that I want to get to soon. All right, two books that I will talk about together is City of Ruin and then The Wolf and the Witch by Sharissa Weeks. I actually started City of Ruin. I'm like 60 pages in, and I'm going to continue reading this book this month. I just wasn't able to finish it at the end of July, and then this is a novella in the series. You read City of Ruin and then this novella. I absolutely love The Witch Collector, and I've heard that City of Ruin is like the best book in the series. I'm afraid of being disappointed by that because I've heard really, really just intense love for this book. And you know, sometimes you hear so much hype that it kind of scares you. I think that's kind of where I've been, but once again, I need to rip the band-aid off and just read this and see what I think for myself. But I do really love the first book, and I like this author's writing style, so I'm sure I will love both of these. The next book on my physical TBR is The Crown of Oaths and Curses by J. Bree. This is the first book in an epic fantasy romance series. I did read the two prequel novellas for this book, and I did really enjoy them, so I'm excited for this. And this, we have fae and witches and all these different creatures, and I think really interesting world, so I'm curious to see what the actual first book in the series has to offer. Next up, I have The Silvered Serpents and The Bronzed Beast by Roshani Chokshi. So I did read the first book, The Gilded Wolves, like 2 years ago, I want to say, in 2021, and I loved it. I gave that book 4 stars. I think this is such a fun YA fantasy, and I really loved our cast of characters. I will probably have to reread The Gilded Wolves, honestly, just because it's been a minute, and it would just be fun to reread anyway because I enjoyed it so much the first time. I have heard, though, that the series just gets better and better. Particularly, I think book 2 is a book that people really, really love. So I think once I do a reread of The Gilded Wolves, I will pick these 2 up. Oh God, this next book. Okay, this is a major priority TBR. I must read this book before the end of 2023. It has to happen. I think about this book a lot too. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I have this really gorgeous edition that was gifted to me by Kara. This book is a very, very well-known, I think mostly well-loved adult fantasy. It follows the most notorious wizard in the world, and I just think it sounds really, really good, but it's another one of those that I'm like, but what if I hate it? What if this book that I put so much hope into and so much like 5-star feels into ends up disappointing me? I am really scared, but this is a book that I 100% want to read this fall before the end of the year. I need to know what all the hype is about, and obviously I have this super stunning edition, so I think this will be really fun to read. Switching gears a little bit, I have Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is a taboo romance, and this is a very like well-loved book, I feel like, in the romance community, so I definitely want to read this whenever I am in a romance mood. I have a lot of friends who say really great things and that this romance is actually really, really well done. The taboo aspects I think are handled well, so I'm excited for this. Then we have Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. I believe this is an adult fantasy. It might be YA, but I picked this up because I think that the cover is beautiful. I think this is one of the most beautiful books that I own, and I am curious to see what I think. I just haven't got to it yet. I don't really have any reason. I just bought this quite a while ago, thought it was so, so beautiful, heard some good things about it, haven't picked it up since. The next book on my physical TBR is The Right Move by Liz Tomford. This is the second book in the Windy City series, I believe is what it's called. I have seen so many of the romance girlies say that this book is fantastic, 5-star things. I feel like it'll be on a lot of people's best books of 2023, and I really do need to pick it up. I think that we have a really sweet and wonderful romance hero, which I love. It's a bit refreshing. When you read a lot of enemies to lovers, it's nice to kind of read more of like a kind-hearted hero, so I am definitely excited for this. Next up, I have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I have heard a lot of amazing things about this book. I think that this is a historical fantasy, if I'm not mistaken. It's also really short. Honestly, I'm gonna do a 24-hour readathon in September, and I'll probably pick this book up then because of how short it is and just because of the good things that I've heard about it. So this might be getting off the TBR soon. Next up, we have Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is a book series that so many of my friends have read and loved. I've seen so many people people absolutely gushing about this series. This is one of those things where I'm just not really in a contemporary romance mood, but I will pick this up. It's also so long, but I think if I get the audiobooks, I'll be okay. But yeah, I've heard really good things. I do think that I will like it. It is a rugby sports romance, and I think it's very emotional, which I do like that. So when I'm in the mood, I think this will definitely be a priority read. The next 3 books on my TBR, they're all by Maureen Johnson, and we have The Vanishing Stair, The Hand on the Wall, and The Box in the Woods. I don't know if this is the right order. Apologies if not. But the first book is Truly Devious. I read that last month, and I really liked it. I had so much fun with it. It is a YA mystery, and I'm excited to see where things go. I love a YA mystery when the mood strikes. I'm very curious to get some answers to a lot of the questions that were presented to us in Truly Devious. I know this book is also a spin-off, and I think it takes place at like a summer camp. I love summer camp books. Let me confirm that before I literally make a statement that I know nothing about. Yes, it is a summer camp. Okay, I love a summer camp story. I think I will definitely be picking these up over the next few months, probably like 24-hour readathons, or if I just want like a quick fun read. So I do think these will be read fairly soon. I don't know if I'll finish it by the end of the year, but I do think I'll definitely pick up the second book and the third book by January. Okay, so we have been recording for 30 minutes. There are still so many books. Live, laugh, love. Next up, we have The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. I'm just scared, you guys. I'm just nervous. I wanted the Mistborn trilogy to be a 5-star series because I loved book 1 so much. It was so good. Like, oh my God, I cried when I finished that book, you guys. And then I read book 2 and I was like, I feel like not a lot is going on. I feel like we're doing a lot of talking, a lot of politicking, which has its place, but I wanted a bit more action. I will say though, the ending of the second book was like amazing. That was a 5-star, but the rest of the book just kind of left me wanting more. So because I have had such mixed experiences with the first 2 books, I just don't know what I'm going to think of this, but it is a finale. I feel like I tend to love the finales of fantasy series, and I am just really motivated to finish this because I do want to get to the Stormlight Archives. So I have been thinking about this book, picking it up lately. I need to do it. I need to know what I'm going to think, but I'm excited. I still will overall, I think fondly of the Mistborn series just because book 1 really left a really good impression on me. Hopefully we will love this. All right, we have more classics on my physical TBR, shocking to no one. Next up is Mansfield Park. We have Northanger Abbey, and then I also have Sense and Sensibility. These are all really beautiful editions that I need to read. I really like looking at them on my bookshelves because they are so stunning. But yeah, definitely a life goal to read all of Jane Austen's work. The next book on my physical TBR, this is a book that I've owned for a long time. This is Bow Before the Elf Queen by J.M. Curl. So it's advertised as Hades and Persephone, the Lord of the Rings, and some Norse mythology, which all sounds really fantastic, especially the Lord of the Rings reference. I've been nervous about this just because like, what a way to market a book, you know, like that just sounds really good. And I'm like, oh, what if it disappoints me? But I think that this could be a really fun book to read for like a fantasy romance reading vlog. Hopefully this one ends up being a hit. The next book is A Curse of Blood and Stone by K.A. Tucker. So the first book in this series is A Fate of Wrath and Flame, which is a fantasy romance that I didn't have a ton of hope for, but I actually ended up enjoying a lot more than I thought I was going to. I gave it a 3.5 star, but that's still like pretty decent because I really did not have like super high hopes for it. And I am curious to see how book 2 goes because the ending of book 1 was really fun. So I definitely want to continue on with the series whenever the mood strikes. Next up, I have The Blood is Love by Karina Halley. I'm just not realizing how teeny tiny this book is. So this is the second book to Black Sunshine. I think it's a duology. So it's a paranormal romance with vampires. And the first book was really good. It was super romantic and like very spicy and very fun. I also want to read more of Karina Halley's books because she does do a lot of paranormal romances, which are very fun. Another book on my physical TBR is The Martian by Andy Weir. You guys know I'm a dues paying member of the Project Hail Mary fan club. I love that book so much. I really do want to read this book as well. I actually contemplated picking up the audiobook today. I didn't because I'm filming this video, so I just didn't really have time to start a new book, but I really want to read this, and I also really want to watch the movie. It's a movie that I think about watching sometimes, but I need to read the book first. Like, those are the rules. I will start this very soon, I think, actually. Maybe I'll start this month. Maybe, you know what, I'm gonna say that now. I'm gonna read The Martian this month. Hold me to it if I don't, but I love Andy Weir's writing, so I'm sure I'm gonna love this. I don't know why I've been holding off. Next up, I have Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. This is the first book in a fantasy series, I believe an adult fantasy series. I actually don't really know what this book is about. A ruthless young assassin starts a journey for revenge in book 1 of this new epic fantasy trilogy. That sounds great. I love books about assassins, so I'm excited for this. The next book on my physical TBR is Slaying the Shifter Prince by Claire Claire Sager. So this book was a part of that Mortal Enemies to Monster Lovers series that Carissa Broadbent wrote Slaying the Vampire Conqueror for. It's a bunch of standalones by different fantasy romance authors. The stories themselves are not connected, but they're all in one series. And this was Claire Sager's addition to that series. I've heard this is just like very spicy and very fun. So I think that this would be a good kind of 24-hour readathon moment. And so I'll probably pick it up then. I really like the art as well. I know some people think that these covers are cheesy, but I think they're so pretty. I really like them. And when I am in the mood for a particularly spicy fan row, I will definitely pick this one up. Okay, so the next book I did start and I read like 125 pages and I just set it down. I wasn't disliking the book a ton. One of my issues was there was a few grammatical errors and it just like was kind of bothering me because I saw it popping up more and more. That is A Court This Cruel and Lovely. The premise of this book is really interesting though. We have a girl with some forbidden powers and so she has to escape her village. She ends up running into this very ruthless mercenary type and they kind of strike up a deal. He will train her and protect her and then she will use her magic to help him get something that he wants. So the setup was cool and I liked that, but some of the grammatical errors were bothering me. But this is a book that I do think I should just give another shot. Maybe just like my copy has these issues, I don't really know, but I was liking the dynamic between our two main characters. And it was definitely like enemies to lovers in the beginning. I don't know, I wasn't in the mood when I was picking this up, so I just decided to put it down, but I do think I need to read this again. So I'll probably pick this up soon. Next up are Jade War and Jade Legacy by Queen Fonda Lee. I absolutely love Jade City. It was on my best books of 2022. I do really want to pick up Jade War ASAP. I don't know if I'm gonna get to Jade Legacy by the end of the year, just realistically. I know it's August, I keep talking about the end of the year, but I feel like the year is already over and I've got a lot going on this fall, and so I'm just like, oh my god, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to all these books, but Jade War I can absolutely get to. I do have the audiobook for this and I'm just so excited to see where things go. Jade City was crazy. Fonda Lee was not afraid to hurt our feelings and I'm sure she's not going to let up in books 2 and 3, and I've just heard the entire series is absolutely fantastic and I feel like this could be an all-time favorite fantasy series for me just because of how strong book 1 was. So I will definitely read Jade War soon. This is a priority book for sure. This is like Name of the Wind and The Hero of Ages. Those are absolute priorities. I need to read them soon. Another book on my physical TBR is Blood Solace. I am actually probably gonna read this month. It is on my TBR, so we'll see how that goes, but I really love this series and I don't want to space these books out too much because there is a lot of world building. The first book was very, very dense. I enjoyed it, but it was dense and there's so much going on. So I fear if I spread these books out too much, I'm going to forget what is happening. So I'm definitely going to prioritize this book to read this in the next month or 2. Okay, I got up to grab more books. My legs have fallen asleep, so they feel all like tingly and staticky right now. Loving it. I cannot believe that I own this many books that I haven't read. Oh my god, it's good. This is good. This is good to visualize this. Some of these books I just never grab for. I never think about. I need to do that. So I'm glad that I'm doing this. I feel like I'm having like an intervention with myself and you guys are just observing. This has been good. This is good. Okay, next up is Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. Why have I not read this? Actually, why have I not read this? Even though I'm not in a contemporary romance mood, I love Twisted Games and Twisted Hate. Oh my god, Twisted Hate is so good. And I've heard really fantastic things about this book, and it's also the finale of the series. I love the finale of a series because I know there's gonna be some like happy, mushy, the whole crew getting together moments. I'm sure that I'll really enjoy this, and I really did like Stella and Christian from what I saw of them in the other books, so this is definitely a priority. Next, I have All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. The reason I haven't picked this book up, I am not the biggest Mariana Zapata fan. I've read 2 books by her. I read The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, and then I read the ice skating one from Luke Off with Love. They were like 3 stars. I was pretty bored by those books and I just didn't really like the way that she writes her characters. And so I was just kind of like, okay, I don't know, you know, if Mariana Zapata is for me, but everyone loves her. I kept one final book by her and that is All Roads Lead Here. I wanted to pick this up because I know that there is like a big nature aspect. There is a lot of like hiking aspects, which I think could be fun to read about. And I do like the idea of kind of like the grumpy single dad with our main character, forced proximity. There are some good tropes working for me in this book. This is a book that I'm really gonna have to like be very excited about when I pick it up just because I haven't had luck with her books and I really do want to. We'll see when that happens. I feel like this is probably a summertime read. Next up is a book that I just recently bought and I feel like this is gonna be a good fall read, and that is The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. I bought this in Minneapolis when I went just a few weeks ago, and Kara, my friend Kara at Kara's Bookshelf, she told me that she thinks of this book as The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue with vampires, which is really, really cool. I was not like the biggest fan of of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I liked it. I gave it 3 stars, but I do like the writing style and I like the idea of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And I feel like incorporating vampires into that, I mean, that just, you know, elevates it a million times for me. So I'm excited for this. All right, then we have another series that I have not started, but you bet your bottom dollar I own the entire thing. Okay, I have them in special dust jackets, the Nerdy Ink dust jackets. The Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan, did I say that right? Percy Jackson is obviously a very well-loved, super popular series from the early 2000s. I want to read it just because I like a middle grade series every now and then. Nevermore by Jessica Townsend is a series that I love so much, and I never read Percy Jackson as a kid, and so I think that this could just be a good little palate cleanser, happy times moment, and I did buy these really beautiful Nerdy Ink dust jackets for it. I love looking at these on my shelves, but I just haven't picked it up yet, so I will very soon. Next up, I have The Blood Trials by N.E. Davenport. This is like part sci-fi, part fantasy, and a book that I've heard really great reviews for, and I absolutely love the cover. I think it's cool. She looks like a badass. I have found myself liking sci-fi a little bit more and more, and I think incorporating that with fantasy sounds so cool, so I'll definitely pick this up soon. Then I have The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. Another cover by, honestly. I think that this is really beautiful. I love the red and the yellow, and I believe that this is a sapphic fantasy. I'm really excited about it, and it's a book that I've heard raving reviews for. Next up, we have The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I have actually started this book. I'm listening to the audiobook and I'm just listening to it slowly, but I am really liking it so far. I do just want to mention it because I am like barely into the book, so it is technically still on my TBR and I haven't finished it yet. So I really do hope that I love this. Then we have Midnight in Everwood. This is a book that I always say I'm going to read at Christmas time, and I just haven't yet. It is a Nutcracker retelling, and I was in so many productions of the Nutcracker throughout my life, so I definitely do want to read this just for like the fun of it all. I don't think this book is gonna like change my life or anything, but I think it could be a really cute Christmassy moment. So I'm gonna put it on my December TBR again. I'm doing it right now. It's August, but this is on my December TBR. We'll give it another try. I really do want to read this because I think it could be a lot of fun. Next up, I have some Greek mythology. So I have Ariadne and Electra, both by Jennifer Saint. I believe these are like standalones in a series, and I like Greek mythology when the mood strikes. The mood hasn't struck since I bought these, but they're here for me whenever I am ready. I'm the worst. And then one of my biggest shames. I cannot believe that I haven't read this book yet, but I am here to confess my sins to you all. The Song of Achilles. I haven't picked this up. Oh, my camera's dying. Hold on. All right, where were we? I think I was confessing my shame. Song of Achilles. Why have I not read this? This was also on my, 22 books to read in 2022, which was over a year ago. I think I also put this on 23 books to read in 2023. I gotta get to this one. This is one of those like, I'm so intimidated, what if I don't love it books, which is crazy because I read Circe and I loved it. So I do like Madeline Miller's writing style, but this is like the book I feel like that so many people love. Everyone gives it 5 stars. What if I do not? I don't know. I don't know why I'm like this, but this is definitely a book that is a priority read for me. I don't know what I'm doing. Next, we have A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair. This is an adult fantasy, and I believe it's a Robin Hood retelling. I really like the story of Robin Hood, so I do think that this is a book that I will really enjoy. I just haven't picked it up yet. No real particular reason, but I will get to it because I've heard the writing is really great. There's a romance, but I think it's like very much a subplot, which is fine. I still think that the Robin Hood aspect is intriguing enough for me to pick this up soon. All right, I've got more Cassandra Clare books staring at me, so let's get through a few of them here. I like part of one of her series here. Okay, so well, let's do this one first. So I have the Last Hours trilogy, which is Chain of Gold, Chain of Iron, and then Chain of Thorns. I think of all the series left in the Shadowhunter Chronicles that I have to read, this is gonna be my favorite for obvious reasons, right? I'm really excited to read this. I feel like it's gonna be so emotional and so fantastic. This is good that this series is at the end of the Shadowhunter Chronicles because getting through the rest of them I think is going to be motivated by my desire to get to these books. All right, and then I have the Dark Artifices. I only have 2 of them. I don't know where the 3rd one is. I'm sure she'll show herself here in a minute, but I have Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows, which is book 2 and book 1. Okay, so we have book 1 and book 2 of the Dark Artifices. I feel like I don't hear people talk about this series as much, so I'll be curious to see what I think. I think this is another modern day setting, kind of like the Mortal Instruments. Oh yeah, it says Los Angeles Institute. Cool. West Coast representation. Love that. I'm looking forward to these. I do definitely want to accomplish my goal of reading all of her books, so we'll get to these. Next up, I have The Thorn Remains by J.J. Harwood. This is an adult fantasy romance. It is a fae fantasy romance, which we absolutely love here. So I will definitely pick this book up when I'm in the mood. It's also not that long either. This could be a good one for a 24-hour readathon. I'm getting all these ideas for 24-hour readathons. That's amazing because you do have to find like the right book to read in a 24-hour readathon. You can't just like pick anything. So this will definitely be a contender. Next up, we have Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I feel like this is a very iconic romance. I've heard so many things about this book. I'm sorry that I keep repeating myself. I'm not in the mood for contemporary romance right now, and I own so many. I just unhauled a ton, thank God. I do want to read this, so that's why I didn't unhaul it, but yeah, I'm not in the mood for contemporary romance. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm apologizing, but I just feel bad that I have so many that I haven't read. But let me tell you, when I get in the mood, I have so many to choose from. So that'll be a good day whenever that happens. Next, I have one of the most beautiful books in the world, and that is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. There's art in this book, you guys. I know I show you every single time I hold this up. Look at her. She is perfect. I heard that you need to finish the Mistborn trilogy before you read this. I was gonna read it like right when I got it, but then someone was like, hold on, girly, finish Mistborn first. Thank you for telling me that. So yeah, I will pick this up once I'm done with Mistborn. Maybe I'll read this fall because it's just so gorgeous. I don't know what the Mistborn connection is. I'm excited to read about it, and I'm motivated to continue on with all of Brandon Sanderson's books. So definitely a book I'll pick up soon. The next book that I have is Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. This is the second book in the Legendborn trilogy. I read Legendborn last fall. I gave it 4 stars though. I loved it. I had a great time. It is a YA fantasy. It's a King Arthur retelling. I will probably want to reread Legendborn though before I pick this up, just because I feel like it's been a while and I want to be like very fresh going into this book so I can have the best possible chance of enjoying it. But I'm excited. We have a love triangle. I think that we have a really interesting retelling. This is the only King Arthur retelling that I've read, and I really liked it so far, so I do have very high hopes for this. Next up is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. I am reading The Assassin's Apprentice this month. I think I'm gonna read it next week, actually. I am so excited for this. I've heard really wonderful things, and I mean, these books are stunning. Hello, like I just cannot wait to be holding these and actually reading them. But yeah, I'm gonna read this next week, and depending on how it goes, I will prioritize these 2 for the rest of the year. Really hope that I love them. I think that overall though, this series has like 14 books in it following the main character's life. I'm excited to get those, and I really hope that I love this. Next up is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. I am such a fake fan because Sally Rooney is one of my favorite authors, but I have not read this. Truly, it's because I don't think we have heard any news of her next novel. She has Normal People, Conversations with Friends, and then this. And so I don't want to not have a Sally Rooney book to read, but I do want to read this. I contemplate picking this up a lot as well. I absolutely love Sally Rooney. She is fantastic. I think she is one of the greatest authors of our time, and Normal People is embedded into my DNA. I love that book so much. So I'm really excited to read this. I've heard it's a little bit different from Normal People and Conversations with Friends, and I'm excited to see what that means. Okay, we have found the first Bergman Brother book. This is Only When It's Us by Chloe Leese. As I said, contemporary romance and maybe a soccer romance, I want to say. Maybe a little bit grumpy sunshine. I don't know. He looks a little grumpy down here. I am definitely looking forward to this, as Chloe Leese's writing style was really great when I read The Mistletoe Motive, and I think that I will like the rest of her books. Okay guys, get ready for more shaming. I've never read the Hunger Games trilogy, which is like, what was I doing when these books were coming out? Honestly, I was in ballet class for like 5 hours a day and just had no time. I really want to read the Hunger Games. Also, these are so short. Okay, this is another good potential like 24-hour readathon moment, I feel like. Let's see, how long is this book? Yeah, it's 350 pages, but the font is really spaced out. I have also only seen the first Hunger Games movie, so I do know what happens in this one, but I have no idea what happens in these books, and I haven't seen the other movies or anything. I have seen some people read these books as adults, and they say that they hold up really well, so I think that I will enjoy the writing, and it's not just gonna be like a nostalgia moment. I think that I could actually really like this story, so I need to read these. I can't believe myself. The next book is by Mary E. Pearson, and that is The Beauty of Darkness. This is the finale of the Remnant Chronicles. Book 1 was Kiss of Deception. That was a 4-star for me, and then the second book is The Heart of Betrayal, which I think it was a 3-star. I was a little bit disappointed by book 2. I didn't really love the direction that things went, but I'm curious to see how we're gonna wrap things up and who our girl is going to end up with, as this is a classic YA fantasy romance love triangle. It is a very fun series, and I'm curious to see how it ends. And then after I finish that, I can finally start The Dance of Thieves. I don't think you have to read the Remnant Chronicles first, but I think it's like fun if you do, because I think there are some connections. I have owned this book forever. Oh my god, I've owned this book for such a long time, but once I heard that, no, you should probably read the Remnant Chronicles first, like if you have it, you should do it. I have been holding off, but this is Enemies to Lovers, and I'm really excited. I feel like this is a very like iconic YA fantasy, and I'm very excited to pick this one up once I am done with The Beauty of Darkness. Okay, the next book is I don't want to read this book. I probably should have just unhauled it, but I'm holding on to it for, I don't know why. It's Kingdom of the, I don't even know the title, Kingdom of the Feared by Carrie Maniscalco. I don't like Kingdom of the Cursed or Kingdom of the Wicked. I think I gave them 3 stars, which not. They're probably more like 2 stars. I don't really know. They have good aspects. I love Wrath. I will say he probably boosted it up a star. I think Wrath is really great. I just don't love anything else about this series. I don't really know. It sucks. It sucks. I've said this so many times, but on paper, the series should really work for me. But for whatever reason, it doesn't. It just doesn't really work. And this is the finale. Yeah. I'm gonna hold on to it. I'm gonna hold on to it. I'll maybe pick it up. I feel zero motivation to read this just because of how lackluster I thought books 1 and 2 were. You know what? Kingdom of the Feared, you're sticking around. You're gonna survive another day. I don't know when I'm gonna read this, but yeah. It's staying on the physical TBR for now. The next book on my physical TBR is Deal with an Elf King by Elise Kova. This is the first book in the Married to Magic series, which I think is like interconnected standalone. So we have an Elf King in this book, and then I think there's like a vampire in one, fae in one. This was a cover by, as you can see, absolutely stunning. I love this art style. Also, the hardcover is so beautiful. I've heard like mixed things about this book. I've heard it's one of those like go in and just have a silly goofy time, little bit of spice, little bit of magic, and just enjoy yourself. This is one of those books where you meet this book where it's at, right? Like you kind of know what you're getting into. So knowing that, I will pick it up. This is one of those that, like I've said this before, I don't ever want to part with it because of how absolutely beautiful I think it is. And I think that still stands. So it's going to stay on the physical TBR for a bit. I have wanted to try out Elise Kova's writing because she has the Air Awakens series that I've heard some like pretty good things about. So I'll be curious to see what I think. So maybe I'll test out her writing with this one. All right, we're getting to the finish line, besties. Okay, the next book on my TBR is These Twisted Bonds by Lexi Ryan. This is the second book in These Hollow Vows duology, and I really liked These Hollow Vows. It was fun. I think it was a 3.5 or a 4 star, not life-changing, but a very good, interesting, kind of cruel prince-esque type of read, and I do want to see how things end, who our girl ends up with, and so I need to get to this. Another book on my physical TBR I've owned for a very long time, and that is Malice by John Gwynne. I've heard fantastic things about John Gwynne, as I said, with The Shadow of the Gods, and I think I've heard more about this series than The Shadow of the Gods, so I do definitely want to read this. I really hope that I like his writing style because I think he does have quite a lot of books, and hopefully I can fall in love with the new series. All right, I have another trilogy for you. That is the Lord of the Rings trilogy by Tolkien. Yeah, so I don't know when I'm gonna pick these up. This is, once again, lifetime TBR. We have a lot of those. You know, there's those books that are like very iconic in your mind that you're like, I do need to read that before I die. That is where the Lord of the Rings trilogy sits for me. I love the movies. The Fellowship of the Ring is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's perfection. And I do want to read the books. I want to read the source material. I did read The Hobbit, and I wasn't like obsessed. I thought I was gonna love it a lot more than I did. It was all right. So many songs. And I know that there's so many songs in here, but I do think that the story of the Lord of the Rings, it's good. Like I do like that whole setup, obviously, and then like it's Lord of the Rings, it's Tolkien, it's iconic. I just don't know when I'm gonna pick these up, but I do really want to read them. It is a goal for me to read these books, so we'll see. I don't know if it's gonna be this year. Who could possibly say? But maybe next year I could prioritize these. Next up is Dracula by Bram Stoker. I actually have read some of this book. Like 2 or 3 years ago, I read the first 100 pages and then I just wasn't in the mood. I think I literally picked up like a rom-com after that. So I wasn't in the right headspace, and I think you do have to be in the right headspace to read this. But this is obviously a very legendary book, and I do like the story of Dracula. I'm definitely gonna make it a priority to read this soon. Maybe I'll read this in October. I don't know. I should be reading Dracula and Frankenstein in October just because I do have a huge desire to read those books, and I have this really beautiful edition. So hopefully I will end up loving this. Another book on my physical TBR is Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shay Earnshaw. So this is, I don't think it's like canon of The Nightmare Before Christmas, but it is just kind of like a story from that world, and it follows Sally Skellington. I think this is kind of just like a cute little, you know, fantasy Halloween story, and I do really like The Nightmare Before Christmas movie. I watched that last year and it was really fun. So I think that this would be a very fun, just kind of like one sitting type of read. So maybe I'll pick this up when spooky season starts. Next up is The Shining by Stephen King. I don't know if I will ever read this. This was a gift from my dad. He is a Stephen King stan. And obviously like it's The Shining. I did watch the movie very young. It traumatized me for like a decade, but I do think like as an adult, I look back on that movie and I was like, that was a good movie. Traumatized me, but it was good. And I would like to read the book. I think I want to read this. I don't know. It's not happening anytime soon. You're not going to see this in a vlog anytime soon. Maybe I'll like rewatch the movie and that'll get me excited to read this, but you guys know I'm not a horror girly. I think that I'm just gonna have to be in the right mindset to pick this up. I don't know what that mindset is, and I don't know if that mindset is ever gonna happen, but I'm gonna hold on to it. It was a gift. I do like the movie. I like the story, you know, why would I pick this up when I could read a fae fantasy romance? It's kind of like anytime I even mildly contemplate picking this book up, I'm like, or I could read about, you know, love interest with wings. But it is staying on the shelf and probably staying on the physical TBR for a very long time. All right, next up we have Blood Sanctuary Part 1 and Part 2 by Velaroth. So these are books 3 and 4 in the Blood Gray series. I don't know why they're split up when they have like the same title, but they're books 3 and books 4. I don't really know what the story is here. Hopefully it'll make sense when I pick it up, but I love the first book in the series, Blood Mercy. I'm going to be reading Blood Solace soon, and then I will get to these. And as I said, this is a very dense series, so I'll probably want to read them pretty close together, so I'm excited for these. All right, we are on our last stack, besties. We did it. Okay, and I have a series to show you, so we'll get through this stack pretty quickly. All right, so I have the A Darker Shade of Magic trilogy by V.E. Schwab. So I have A Darker Shade of Magic, I have A Gathering of Shadows, and then I have A Conjuring of Light. So I don't know if I've like ever talked about this series on my channel. I've had these books for quite a while, but this is a priority read for me for this fall. I think I'm going to be starting the first book in September. I really, really want to read this series. I think there's kind of like a spin-off or a continuation of this series, this world coming out soon. It might already be out, but I've seen a lot of people talking about this series, and I think because that book is coming out, I do want to prioritize this. So A Darker Shade of Magic, I'm definitely going to be reading in September, and I'm excited for it. I do like V.E. Schwab's writing a lot. The only book I've read by her is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Wasn't like in love with the execution, but the writing is like top tier, you can't deny, and I'm excited to see what else V.E. Schwab has to offer. Next up, I have The Words by A. Jade. This is a rockstar romance, which sounds super fun. So when the mood strikes for some rockin' romance, I will be picking this up. I have another Chloe Lease book. I really loved the mistletoe motive, so kind of went crazy with her others, but I have two wrongs make a right. This is the first book, I believe, in her newest series. I think it's her first like traditionally published series. And I think it's also, yeah, it's a Much Ado About Nothing retelling, which is really fun. And then I have The Heir by Sophie Lark. This is the first book in the Kingmakers series, which I believe this is following the children of like mafia people at an academy, and they go and learn how to be like badasses. The first book is a friends to lovers romance of these two people who come from those types of families, and then they go to the academy together, and I think they grow up together, and yeah, so then they fall in love. So I have wanted to read this book for such a long time. It's been on so many TBRs of mine, and I've almost picked it up a million times. I do really, really want to read this soon. If I don't read it this fall, I do want to read it in early 2024 because the series I've heard is really fun and super bingeable, and I think that that could be a really great time. All right, the very last book on my physical TBR. This is so anticlimactic. This is Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. Book 3 in the Dark Artifices. So I already talked about the trilogy as a whole. I just couldn't find book 3, but she was buried underneath all of these other books. So I'm excited to read the Dark Artifices. As I kind of said before, it is the trilogy that I know the least about. I don't really know anything that happens in this book other than I just learned it takes place in Los Angeles and it's more modern day than the Infernal Devices or the Last Hours series. All right, you guys, we did it. I am not kidding. When I thought this video was gonna be like really short, and I have so many books on my physical TBR. Oh my god, I did not realize this, but as I said, this is good. I need to get to these books because I have a lot of really amazing books on here. I'm sure there are plenty of 5 stars in these piles. I feel very, very lucky to have all of these books, and I really, really hope that I have some winners here. So as I said, please let me know what books I should be prioritizing. If there's something that stuck out to you that you're like, girl, you need to read that ASAP, let me know. I'm excited. It was really fun to do this and just kind of really take a look at all of my books because I see them on my bookshelves every day, but I don't ever actually like hold them and really look at them and consider them. So this was really fun. If you made it to this point in the video and you wanted to let me know, go ahead and leave the book stack emoji. Please make sure that you're following me on Instagram and Goodreads. They are always linked down below. I really appreciate that you watched this video. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. I love you all so, so much, and I will catch you guys in the next one.